All right, everybody, welcome back to the Titans table for two in the two-tone blue. That's Andrew,
And that's Christian.
and we're coming to you today with the latest Titans news. First off, we want to say like, subscribe, share with your friends if you enjoy being here. Comment down below. Let us know. Join the conversation. What your thoughts are on some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today. Also, shout out to the CPN Curtis Podcast Network for having us here and bringing us on as your official Titans podcast for the CPN network. Uh, Also, go check out their latest video. You can catch us on the AFC South show as well that we'll be doing. Andrew just had his first group show with some of the other fellas there, so
Yep.
go
Really
check
cool.
all of them out.
Yeah.
Whatever team you got in sports, they're looking to kind of have a show for you. So check everything out, no matter what you're into.
Yeah. Right now,
Uh,
doing the AFC South. We got a Jags guy. I think it's Third and Teal. Got a Texans podcast at Colts, and we all come together. Try to come together once a week or once every other week and talk about the division as a whole. So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And then also just a general sports show that you can catch, Sports Desk. Uh,
hmm
Check that out as well, coming to you every week. So yeah, go check out CPN and much gratitude for them having us along. First thing was the big news this week. I guess we can talk about uh, is Harold Landry. It's a move I think a lot of people, especially if you know a little bit of the kind of business side of sports, particularly the NFL. I don't think this is much of a surprise that Harold Landry seeks a trade, and Titans grant that for him. I don't think the number that he had on the books was quite worth it to the team anymore, and I think both sides kind of happy to maybe seek other options.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, grant permission to seek a trade is more like, hey, go find someone that's willing to trade for you that you want to play for. I'm not
Hmm.
sure that really came from Harold. I think it was kind of like we're giving you permission
Yeah,
more
yeah.
because there's a good chance you're not going to be here. And Harold Landry's a
Hmm.
good player, not a great
Hmm.
player, and that's kind of where it's at. 17.5 million is a lot for a good pass rusher, like a volume pass rusher who needs to
Yeah.
be able to field a lot to hit those numbers. Very versatile in the sense that he can drop back in coverage and stuff you want. But I think the pass rusher you want is someone who can just go to the quarterback. That's all we want you to do is go get the quarterback kind of
Hmm.
thing. I liked Harold,
Yeah, me as well.
gives me very much Derek Morgan vibes, same kind of
Hmm.
concept, kind of like
Yeah.
not great but good, you know.
That's kind of how
Uh,
it's felt at that position for us for a while,
yeah,
and I think
sure.
that's why I think a lot of hype around Abdul Carter, this year for deservedly so.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think I'm with you. I like Harold as well. He just wasn't worth the number that's on the books for him this year.
Yeah.
Probably best for both sides to see what they can do. And so yeah, kind of the first moves happening in the off season. I wish him the best, because I have enjoyed his time here. He's had some really good games at times. Just I guess not consistent enough for what you want out of somebody paying him 17.5 million.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh, but no, we'll see what he goes to here. I'm not sure what his trade value is. I can't imagine more than a fifth with that cap number, and that's honestly kind of being me more of a sixth.
Hmm.
But we'll see what happens. Uh, never know. There's no been some big uh league news. Around the between
Yeah, we had the
Matthew
first moves in
Stafford.
the position of the quarterback
Yeah,
in
the first
particular.
domino to fall.
Yeah, kind of shake things up for not just the Titans but other teams around the league. Matt Stafford agrees to sign a new deal to restructure his contract
Yeah.
today. We heard.
I feel like it was kind of like a Lamar Jackson thing where they weren't sure what they were going to pay him. Like, yeah, go test the market and then come back to us and we'll see, kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I don't think there was ever a chance he was going anywhere. They're like, we'll pay you whatever they're paying you. Just go see what they're going to pay you, and we'll pay you that kind of deal.
Hmm.
Um, but I couldn't imagine them actually letting him go. That was kind of a strange thing for me after the way he played towards
Me
the end of
too.
the
That's
season.
actually what I was. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the exact same thing, man. It actually kind of was shocking to me in the first place that they would, that they were thinking, about doing anything like that. He's
Mhm.
because, like I said on a previous episode, he's been highly productive and recently. Just this last year. He's been very good in his older age.
Mhm.
So I think that's why a lot of teams were willing to bring him in for a couple years to maybe bridge the gap between him and a new guy. So and why? I mean, the Rams. I mean, why would you want to get rid of that if he can still go out and possibly get you a trophy? Still, I mean, I think Matt Stafford. I believe in him to that degree. If you put a team around him, he can still go get it done at a high level and
Oh yeah,
win
absolutely.
big games. So I mean, he's not a bad cat there. He's not a bad leader to have in that position at this time. Still at his age. So I mean, if that's why the Titans were looking at him, and Raiders and Giants and maybe other teams, Browns that maybe need a quarterback right now. So
I think it's definitely a win in the column for people that are in team trade back. Because I mean, the idea that he was going to go to either the Giants or the Raiders, and now both of those teams need a quarterback, and there's maybe more of a chance they trade up. Um,
yeah,
I think Sam Darnold probably ends up with one of those teams. So we'll see. Uh,
yeah, that'd be the last thing I think. I think that I want. Honestly, I hope.
no,
I hope.
I'd rather him. Yeah, I don't want Sam Darnold.
Nothing
Uh,
against him personally. I just, he's highly overpaid. I think.
yeah. Well, yeah.
Uh,
Oh, he will be highly overpaid for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Um, Another big news that came out: Trey Smith getting the franchise tag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I forgot to mention that as well. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously that was probably the top free agent for a lot of Titans fans,
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
and I mean, I think there's potential for the Chiefs to still trade him because they kind of did that with Snead last year, where they tagged him just so they could get some value
Yeah.
there. But I don't see us being that team after we only have 6 draft picks.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that's a guard off the market one way or another. Um, but yeah, so everybody's top free agent coming down off the market. I mean, T Higgins
Yeah.
has
Thinning
yet
the
to
herd
actually
out there a little bit
receive
for the off season, aren't they?
I know the news came out that the Bengals were probably going to franchise T, but I mean, I don't think he's actually been tagged yet, so he's still out there. But yeah, Trey Smith off the market for the time being.
Yeah. It's thinning the herd at the top there a little bit this off season already. Definitely reshaping what we could see here in the future in the coming weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's it for your early news, I guess, kind of around the league. We actually have a couple videos we're gonna
Mm-hmm.
queue up here for you. We're gonna react to a presser from Borgonzi and Callahan.
Yeah, I'm going to
Um,
interview that first with Callahan when he sat down with CBS Sports, I believe is what it is, and just kind of get some. We'll pause it and react to it as it goes.
Pick here in Indianapolis, Indiana, NFL Combine 2025. That's Pete Briscoe. That's Aditi Kinkawala and Ryan Wilson. And that Tennessee Titans second-year head coach Brian Callahan. Brian, thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you here. And I'm going to start off with the probably the most obvious question, one you're going to get a million times. 2019, the Bengals had the first overall pick, and they nailed it.
Yes.
With Joe Burrow. I think he's going to turn out to be a pretty good quarterback.
So far, seems like it.
Seems like it's working out for him.
He had good coaching.
Yeah.
So, and you had a lot to do with that. And second year in Tennessee, the Titans had the first overall pick. And you guys have some tough decisions to make. This podcast is called With the First Pick. The Titans have with the first pick. I know you're going to be asked this a lot, and I would imagine you have an answer in store. I'm interested to hear what the plan is in terms of what the Titans are going to do, because they're two quarterbacks you typically talk about. And the other thing I want to ask you is how do you find the next Joe Burrow, I guess? Because you draft quarterbacks every year, teams do, and they work out half the time.
It's not an exact science, I think, as we've all learned. Hard to find the next Joe Burrow. He's sort of established himself in a class of his own. But you do your best to try to find the traits that generally tend to translate to winning. And that's guys that can throw on time, that have some anticipation, that can throw accurately. And then there's the secondary component of is what do they do when it's not perfect? Can they create? Is there ability?
I want to stop there for a second because we've heard that several times over the past
mhm.
month, and it's crazy because when he first starts talking, he says anticipation, throws on time, accuracy, to me, that's more in the camp of Shador Sanders. That's what he's
Mhm.
good at. That's what he's known for. And then he goes into, but you also need to be able to create when it's not there. And I feel like that falls way more into the Cam Ward
Mm,
aspect of their game. So he definitely doesn't give away either way who he's leaning or anything,
Mhm.
which they're not going to at this point. You're going to hear 15 different stories about what they're going to do
yeah.
before they do it. But he's been pretty steady in what he wants out of the next quarterback, and it's qualities that both of them are strong at in different aspects. So I just thought that was
Well, I mean, these coaches are always. It's like it's even in the off season and stuff with the draft and free agency and things like that. More so the draft, I guess. But free agency too. It's a bit of a chess match too. It's you don't want to give too much intel for good reason. You don't want everybody knowing what you're thinking and what you want to do. That's how you bargain. There's a lot of people looking at this pick. And that's how you maintain high value to that. You don't you keep your strategies close, man. So
well,
I
then I think you're
understand.
interested in everybody. So just in case that's your guy, you want to come get him.
Absolutely. So
So
yeah, I understand why. And people get mad at Mike Vrabel for a lot of that, which uh, I understand. It's a little bit different, but yeah,
he's
nothing going in
definitely
that.
like when he does interviews with like the local media and stuff, he definitely is more open and gives more. And I
Yeah,
get where
he's
Vrabel is
yeah.
coming from, but I think it's because he was kind of a jerk about it too.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. I think the delivery in which he kind of came off is what kind of was a
Yeah,
turn off to the media and stuff sometimes. But it's that Patriot way stuff. You know what
yeah,
I mean? So,
absolutely.
but yeah,
All right,
onward.
get back into it.
ability to create outside of the structure. And so those are all the things you look for. And you might not check every box at the highest level, and you have to figure out where those things are that you can manage because not every player has every single trait at the highest level, right? So you have to find ways to work through those things, and how they react under pressure is another part that's really important. And those are hard things to find out, which is why I think you see everyone has a challenge with evaluating quarterbacks and what translates to wins on Sunday.
By the way, he already has you drafted a quarterback if you don't know that already. which,
I'm
which
the
brings
only one.
what? Which brings me to your quarterback. And we talked last summer. I thought he was going to have a breakout year. I think you thought he was going to have a breakout year. What happened with Will Levis last year?
Look, there's a lot of things that
Mm.
quarterbacks get blamed for that isn't necessarily on them. I think we struggled, particularly up front in pass pro, put him in some tough spots.
Understatement of the
He
year.
took a lot of hits and sacks.
Yeah.
Again, sacks are also partly a quarterback thing, but they're also an offensive issue. It's guys getting open fast enough. It's being able to get the ball out before the rush gets there. So there's a lot of things that I think that Will maybe gets blamed for that we got to be better around him. I got to coach better. So I don't put everything on Will.
All right, pause.
At the end of the day, we didn't play well
You
enough
pause it real
anywhere.
quick.
Yeah.
I love hearing that, man. Just at least saying that, man, because he's heard that, and it's not an unfair criticism
No.
to say that he didn't. Will Levis could have used a little bit better coaching in a lot of situations this year.
I mean, Will obviously had some bad mistakes, but the offense as a whole was bad too. I
yeah,
think I'm not
the whole
saying he
thing
would have been.
together. Yeah.
I'm not saying with a great offensive line, he would have been Tom Brady, but obviously I think he would have been better, with a
Mhm.
better offensive line.
Yeah.
So I mean, it
Well,
was
because we had early stats. We had stats, and 7 or 8 games in that showed he was actually really good. Like we said multiple times, in a clean pocket.
Yeah.
It's I'm glad he made that point. That is, I agree with him 100% that a lot of stuff gets put on quarterbacks that's not fair at times. We were the worst at the right tackle position all year.
Yeah.
All year long. That was just a nightmare.
Mhm.
So that's not Will Levis's fault. So I'm glad he mentioned himself too as a coach. I just wanted to mention that because I like hearing that.
Yeah.
Some people are too proud to say stuff like that.
Agreed. All right, let's get back.
As a football team, that's why we're picking first overall. I thought Will was going to have a chance to play good football. I think he learned a lot of hard lessons this year, to be honest. There's some things that he can get a lot better at.
Another
I'm actually very
understatement.
excited to see how he comes back in the spring, getting ready to compete. Because as I told him when he left, that there's at minimum there'll be competition, and he's going to have to get himself ready to worry about what he can do better, and that's all he can control. So I'm excited about his process, separate from the one we're going through now. That I do think he's got a chance to improve, and he has to, and he knows that. But we also have to improve around him, and I think that's really the most important part. Is we have to be ready for whatever quarterback is playing. We have to do a better job all the way around.
Before we jump to all of that around
Mm-hmm.
whoever the quarterback is, I do want to go back to that first pick. Peyton Manning was telling me earlier this year that there is no more difficult position to be in than to be the number one drafted quarterback. So then, is there a piece of you that thinks it might be safer to go find another game changer who's not a quarterback?
I think that's all part of the process. You're trying to find what fits best for your team. There's certainly.
I think just to throw this into with that question, that seems like if you think the quarterback is going to have too much stress being the number one overall pick, then he's probably not your guy.
Yeah, I was just I didn't like the word safer either. That was a weird way to word that, but yeah.
Yeah, if your guy can't handle the pressure of being a high draft pick, then, and I don't think
Yeah,
Cam and Shador would have, like, I think they both want that, and they would carry that with on their shoulder, being the number one pick and knowing it's what's expected of them. But
Yeah.
it seems like a weird question to me. I'm sorry.
No. It's I mean, I almost didn't stop it there because I was, I didn't want to, keep stopping it too much. But yeah, I agree with you. But yeah, if you're worried about that part, you're probably not thinking about him too much as the number one pick.
Titans. If you think Cam or Shador can't handle being the number one pick, definitely don't pick them. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. Sorry.
There's a lot of pressure on the first overall pick quarterback. And again, for the same reason Peyton
There
said
you
it
go.
was hard, you're going to a team that is generally didn't win enough games the year before.
Right.
For whatever reasons those are, they're picking first because they didn't win enough. And so you're being picked with the expectation that you'll help deliver those wins at some point. So it's a pressure-packed situation. It's not for everyone. It's hard, but if you find the right one, it can change the course of your franchise. And so you got to weigh all of those things in the equation when you're looking for who's going to play quarterback.
So one of the things that one of the storylines this draft cycle is Shedeur Sanders playing for his dad the entirety of his life. What's that going to look like when he's no longer playing for Coach Prime? And it made me think of you in a sense because your dad joined you in Tennessee. And I wonder how much of that is good, how much of that is bad. Does he treat you differently than you might treat another coach that he's working for, or what's that relationship like?
No, we operate as a head coach and the offensive line coach for when it's appropriate, and then there's times when he's able to be dad and be able to offer advice. But he also is a former head coach, and so there's things that he can help me with. We've done a really good job of navigating that. I wouldn't worry about that for a guy like Shedeur. I think he's mature. I think he's got the right makeup. You can tell he's been raised right. And I don't think his dad being involved in his career all of a sudden with him, I don't think that's a factor in my mind. And maybe for some people it is, but you can tell he's ready for the next step.
Can you
but he's
pause real
also
quick?
been given.
It's a fair question. It's a fair question. I mean, that's an anomaly. You don't see many guys coming into the highest level of football that you could say that about, but I guess Deion Sanders himself is also an anomaly as well, right?
Yeah.
It's not
One of a kind player.
It's not like he's had Joe Schmo coaching him. Yeah, it is a fair question.
And this is actually true for both quarterbacks. Everybody that I've listened, like not Twitter, but everyone who matters that's talking to these guys, say they're both super mature and super, carry themselves well, have the right, head on their shoulders and stuff like that. So obviously they're going to try to put their best selves out there, but they both come off that way in general to me.
Yeah.
So competitive, hardworking, but
and we didn't really go ahead.
But I was going to say you're right. It's a fair question, but
and to know too, I don't know if it'll come up again to where we can mention it or whatever. Well, I guess we'll get to it. Go ahead. Onward.
Been a lot of tools from a guy that knows a lot about football, and I think that's always going to be a benefit than it is more so than it would be a hindrance.
We always hear at this time of the year when somebody has the number one pick, we're open for business.
Yeah.
And by that, you throw it out there. Anybody want to try and make an offer to go up? Are you guys open for business? And if so, what would you try to get out of that? How far down would you go? That type of situation.
It's probably a better question for
Not
Mike
answering that
Borgonzi
question.
than it is for me. But I do think all options are on the table. We're looking at all the potential for how do you best build your
Coach
football
speak.
team.
Here we go.
So
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can ask Mike more details about that when you get a chance. But I would certainly say that we're not locked into anything at the moment, and we're always going to do our due diligence on whatever options present
Learn
themselves.
nothing there.
You can
Where's
take
Mike
that.
at?
Yeah.
This is here, and your guys obviously fought. Your players played hard, but there were, quite frankly, quite a few holes.
Yeah.
So when you assess all that you need to do to really shore up this roster, what are kind of the points of emphasis?
I think you're always looking to add players in the trenches. Whether it be pass protection,
That is
pass
one
rush,
thing.
and that can
They
come in a
both
lot of
keep
different
saying
ways, but
offensive
you're
line,
always
defensive
starting there. Is how do you best improve those areas, and we got to be better in pass pro. We got to be better at sacking the quarterback. Those two things sort of go hand in hand, and so I would always start there. But we have a lot of work to do. There's things that we got to get accomplished from a roster building standpoint that you may not get to check every single spot over the course of an acquisition cycle. And so we got to find as many of those options as we can and continue to keep building the football team. So a lot of work ahead. And again, always going to try to focus on the interior of the football team first and sort of work your way out from there.
Thanks to Brian Callahan, Tennessee Titans coach, for joining us here. I appreciate your time, Brian. Great luck this week and great luck throughout the draft process.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Think of every NFL head coach.
Yep.
Who would win the bench press?
Okay, I'm not going to listen to the stupid questions.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that I like one thing I was thinking there at the end, man. I do like. I was frustrated about the firing of Rand Carthon. We don't have to go into that again. We talked
Yeah.
about it previously. But after getting yourself up after this last season, dusting yourself off, licking your wounds and stuff, and looking at it, man, I like the team of Bergonzi and Callahan.
I like Borgonzi. I mean,
Uh,
nothing against. I can't bring my dislike for the fire of Callahan to be mad at the Nuge. That's so silly.
Yeah.
You get upset,
It's,
you get over it, and you go, okay, now let's look forward and try to be better this team. So
yeah. But yeah, I like the combination of the two, and I'm excited to see what they can do. But
speaking of Borgonzi, that's the next interview we're going to listen to.
okay.
So we're going to get into Borgonzi sitting down with PFT Live, Chris Sims, and Florio.
And I
Like
appreciate
and
everybody
subscribe.
listening to us and stuff as well, man. Like and subscribe to us. We appreciate it. Thank you for being
Don't
here.
forget, hit that alarm. Let us know so you'll know when we're coming.
Tighten up that like
the
button,
Scouting
baby.
Combine, and joining us now for the first time ever, brand new GM.
Brand shiny
Still
new.
smells new.
Smells new. Yeah.
That new car.
He didn't
smells
even
new.
get all the red off of him yet. He's trying to get used to this blue.
Mike Borgonzi of the Tennessee Titans. How hard is it to shed? And I know guys move around all the time, but you got the Chiefs and your Chiefs through and through, and then the next day it goes blue in, red out.
That's a difficult thing to explain to people too, because 16 years I was with the Chiefs, and
It's a long time.
time. Family was
Yeah,
raised
that is a
there.
long time. Wow.
Kids were raised there. And then all of a sudden, because it's different than coaching, obviously, where you finish out the season and you go on to the next team. So, I took this job during the playoffs. So that's a difficult thing to go through. And I'm there watching these playoff games in my hotel room in Dallas at the East-West game. I'm in Nashville watching the Super Bowl in the hotel room by myself. So it's a difficult thing to explain to people. But
Damn,
it is a
Callahan
strange
couldn't
deal,
invite
but-
him over for the Super Bowl?
I'm here with Tennessee now. So,
Right.
and we're going to get rid of all the red.
Yeah, good problems to have.
Business.
As you said. Well, how does that process work? And I don't know, transferring files, reports. How do you do all of that? Or do you just have to go to Tennessee and go, everything's blank, and we got to just fill them in again? How does that work in that process?
Yeah, so that's a good question. There's a lot of things that you do when you're evaluating players that you put on documents and all that stuff,
Right.
and then you build a book when you come in. And it's a lot of the systems and the processes that you're going to bring to the next team, hopefully. But then it's just implementing those systems too as well. So you get dropped right into the middle of free agency in the draft.
Right.
It's a lot of the stuff that you might not be able to get to until after the draft in terms of just database stuff, certain things like that. So yeah.
So it's not all perfect and in place yet. You kind of just got to work, and you're kind of working to get it in place as you're working to evaluate the players.
Right. You got to keep the main thing right now, and that's evaluating these players.
Yeah.
Well, do you? And I don't want to go too into the weeds, but I think I look at it from the perspective of an outsider. What would be curious? How do you even get access to your own work that you've done all through the season up to the point where you take the new job? Do they let you have it, or are they like, no, sorry, this is property of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Typically, you can't get that information out of the system. A lot of the reports I wrote
Makes
were on
sense.
Word documents. I think we learned over the years that start them out on Word and then sync them up to the system.
Gotcha. All right. So you talked about generational talent, right, a few weeks ago, or when you got hired.
White guy
And if
last.
there was somebody there, quarterback or not, you'd take them, right? Do you feel like there's some people that meet that criteria so far in this draft process?
I think there's a handful of players I think that might fit that bill right now. As we've gone through the meetings now, really, and kind of really dug more down on the tape. I do feel like there's at least a handful of players that we feel comfortable with. Saying they're very good football players. They could be impact players in the league.
Right. How about I know a lot of people, Travis Hunter, they talk about the #1 pick, and I get that. I know you're not going to tip your hand here, but he is unlike anything we've kind of seen, right? Can you come up with a comparison or anybody you remember to think that there's anything like this?
It's funny because we were in the draft meetings. We were trying to think of another player in the modern day of football who actually, some players that have played corner and then played a little bit on offense, but they actually line up every week, for the past few years and play offense and defense. I've never seen anything like it.
Right? Like Champ Bailey and Charles Woodson didn't do it to that extent, right? They weren't like that.
Right. They were spot players
right?
on offense.
Do you think it's feasible at the NFL level for somebody to play both ways on a football?
I think it'd be very tough, Mike.
Why?
Because of the amount, the season is longer.
Pause it real quick.
And then the amount of time that.
So he just basically answered the question that a lot of people ask about Travis Hunter there. I think teams are probably drafting him for one or the other. In my mind, man, it's hard for me to imagine somebody playing all the snaps.
It's the way I look at it is one or the other. And
he'd be more of a DB, wouldn't he, in your mind? Then play some packages on offense. If you're
going to give him any chance to play both, you're going to draft him as a corner and give him some plays on offense. You're not going to draft him as a receiver and give him some plays on defense.
It doesn't work that way, right?
You got to get into a rhythm on defense, and you got to be out there. So, I do think that I want to say tipped his hand a little bit, but and then between what he said and Callahan said earlier this week, where he saw him as starting at a cornerback, if he were to bring him in, we're not drafting a cornerback #1.
That's what I was just gonna say, man. I think,
especially with this roster, you know what I mean.
It hurts to say because he is a stud, man.
Yeah.
But hearing all that, that's exactly what I was getting to, man. Like hearing all that and everything, it would seem Titans most likely would pass on to Travis Hunter because we have a pretty solid
cornerback
secondary. Cornerbacks at least. Yeah, I mean it's pretty solid there. So
everything. If everybody comes back healthy and ready to play, we're missing one safety spot right now, and so you say Quandre doesn't come back, and then you're other than depth, but you're not going to pick a depth piece at #1, So
I think it'd be between the other three now. You could probably logically eliminate him
unless they were like, hey, he's going to play receiver, and then that's all a smokescreen. What Brian Callahan said, could be the thing, but I still don't think you're picking at #1 overall. You're sticking and picking at one. It's going to be one of the other three.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So
with that pick,
definitely interesting. Back into it.
You have to practice during the week, and you can't rest all the time, and it just becomes more difficult to do.
Yeah. And there's just more mental gymnastics and studying and different group of guys that you're facing on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
How about coming from KC, you guys looked like you cracked the code there in a lot of ways as far as evaluating players. What are some things that really stood out that you learned from Veach and Andy Reid, and that you hope to take to Tennessee?
Yeah, I've learned a ton. It was really about the process and the people that we brought in. And we were very, this term gets overused sometimes, but collaborative group.
Gotcha.
But we did meet a lot and watched a lot of tape together.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the only way to do it, because there's questions on everything, whether it's the player on film or the character, and to sit in a room during these meetings and to just discuss it and get it all out on the table, and then make the decision after.
Right.
So things like that, I learned, it's the process and the people that you have in place.
Yeah, a little more group effort there than maybe people would
It
realize.
certainly was, yeah. And the synergy with the coaching staff we had in Kansas City, we had a lot of consistency there over the years.
Yeah.
But that was a huge factor. And just, being able to work with those coaches and the same staff for that amount of time.
Right.
That's one of the things that gets overlooked with the Chiefs' success. When you've got the same OC, same defensive coordinator, same special teams guy year after year after year, that's just one less factor that you have to deal with as you're trying to get ready for the next season.
And we know exactly what they were looking for on a year-to-year basis. And that doesn't happen all the time. And I think that's a big part of the success they had there.
Sorry, go ahead.
How do teams react when you have a guy like Cam Ward who comes out and says, "If you don't draft me, that's your fault, and I'll remember it for the rest of my career"? Does that work? Do you get? Ooh.
I mean, it's confident, right?
Yeah.
And he's a little bit of a chip.
Like
on
the
his
hocus
shoulder.
pocus.
I see, he wasn't a recruited
Pause real quick.
I'm not even listening to what he's saying now.
Yeah, no, I was,
Back it up a little
you
bit.
can always go back a couple. Yeah. I just thought of the spooky fingers as soon as he said, "Oh, Scott Hall, the Razor Ramon." That's what I thought. Hey, yo.
Scott Hall. He can play the game.
I don't know why Hocus Pocus popped up in my head.
Yeah, I thought of that immediately. That's one of my favorite gifts, man. is the Scott Hall doing the spooky fingers, man. That tickled me. I had to touch on that real quick. Sorry.
That broke me too. All right. Let's see if he's scared, okay? Let's just...
Yeah.
Remember it for the rest of my career. Does that work? Do you get? Ooh.
Yeah. And he's a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I can see, he wasn't a recruited player coming out. He goes to Incarnate Word, Washington State, goes to Miami. It doesn't bother me. It just kind of shows he's got some confidence to him.
Yeah. He's ready.
Yeah.
He's ready for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
some
like
gumption.
it. I know that. I mean, he wants to say, "Hey, you don't take me, I'm going to prove you wrong." We heard Peyton Manning kind of say those type of things. coming out in the draft,
he
right?
did not. He made no bones about it. I'll kick your ass every chance I get if you don't take me.
How
He told
about
Bill Polian that.
the draft itself? Right. I'm in the beginning phases of starting to look at players.
Yeah.
Trenches are deep, right?
Yeah.
Are there other position or two that you look at this year and go, "Hey, they're pretty deep. I like what I see."
The D line stands out right away.
Right.
Particularly the edge. There's a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
That's kind of telling to me. We were just talking about the depth at edge. Is that more likely you don't take edge number one?
It's another clue, right? Like,
Yeah. So we can get some productive players at edge later on.
the more he talks, it seems more and more like it could be a quarterback that they want to take at number one.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, like I said, anything could be a smoke screen, so I don't want to overreact.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But read
We're
through the
just,
lines,
we're thinking logically and rationally based
Yeah.
on the things he's
yeah,
saying.
we can only go
and-
by what he's saying. Yeah, just another thought. Let's see. The edge is really deep. We'll look over like what the edge combine kind of looked like yesterday. But
Yeah,
Draft,
absolutely.
I'd say the running backs, good draft of running backs. I mean, it's good tight
A
ends.
lot of good ones.
Yeah, it's a good draft overall.
Yeah, you do. You feel like it's a draft where we might get, and you might go, "I actually might have 32 first round grades on guys this year."
Yeah, and I think the depth is good too.
Yeah.
Especially at the D line position.
Gotcha.
You really don't get a feel until you set the board, and we did that called phase one where we set the board.
Gotcha.
Broke the meetings. But once you look up at the board, you say, "Wow, there's a lot of players up there."
How about you?
well, let's stop right there. Just because in his press conference when he first got to the combine, I think it was Tuesday, he said, he's mentioned that how they already set their board.
But he
And,
being who? He being who?
Morganzi. He said we've already set our board.
Okay. Yeah, I just want
And,
to make sure. Okay, I got you.
One of the Titans beat reporters asked him, how much movement can you expect in that? He said, well, you're not going to probably see anything drastic. But unless something
Yeah.
happens, an injury or anything else, if something drastic happens, then you'll see it'll be a lot of little movements from here. So I mean, in theory, they might have their guy already, picked out. I
I'm
don't
of the
think
opinion that like most people probably have their guy like as far as top like 5 to 10 picks or so.
yeah.
I think most teams have an idea of who they're shooting for.
I
Now
think
there
all of
might be
this
teams that
yeah.
want the same guy that are trying to maneuver, and things like that. But I think they probably narrowed it down to their 1 or 2 guys, man. You know what I
Yeah, and I
mean?
think the interviews and the pro days and the 30 visits and the workouts have a lot to do with it. But I don't think you're gonna, like I said, not a drastic move, and it could be something where they have Shador 1 and Cam 2, but through this process,
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm kind of feeling Cam more. I think a little
Yeah,
flop
yeah,
or maybe but I don't think you're gonna see anybody go from a 5th round grade to a first out of nowhere. Is kind of what you're
right,
saying, but
right.
it is interesting saying that he did
That's
say
usually character issues and things like that happen. Like Sweat last year.
Sweat dropping from the first to the second.
Yeah, and
Joe
people
Mixon had
projected
that
him.
happen
I
whenever he
mean,
came out.
yeah, yeah.
Even
I
Laremy Tunsil, he
remember
went from being like a first pick overall to like wherever he went, whenever he had that gas
4th or
mask
something.
video.
I think.
No, I
Yeah, I'd
think he
have to
dropped.
look it
Like,
up again.
it was still a first round pick, but I think it was like somewhere
Oh, was
maybe
he?
10 to
Okay.
15, maybe.
Well, maybe I'm remembering.
I think it was 10 to
Uh-oh.
15 range, I believe, when Tunsil got
Was it
drafted.
really? Well,
Yeah,
anyway, yeah, I remember Sweat was projected to go like 4th or 5th round after all that.
yeah, but like he was where we got him. Was where like I think most people were projecting him, maybe even sneaking into the first.
Okay, it was the 2nd round, so it was kind of between where you said and I said, sort of. So he was drafted 48th overall.
Tunsil was?
Mixon.
Mixon. Oh, yeah, Mixon. I thought we were talking about Laremy Tunsil.
No.
Mixon was a 2nd round pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was before all that stuff happened with him, where he
Yeah,
got
I don't know
traded
why I
to LA.
remember him dropping later, man. It's funny how things like that kind of. There's
All
so
run
many
together.
players, that
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
watching football for freaking 20 years at this point, longer, I guess now.
26 since the Titans came.
Yeah.
Who, like, personally the toughest position to evaluate or the annoying one, right? Like Ryan Poles came up here and said safety a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to like ask guys a little bit just to, what it is. Everybody got it is safety.
I sat in a room with Poles for
forever, right?
a
So
long
yeah,
time.
right.
It was the safeties.
Yeah.
And it would always be the last position that we did. So we switched it over the years. We've actually done the safeties earlier because that's the one you really can't watch target tape. You got to watch.
You got to watch.
You got to watch all the games.
Yeah.
You got to feel your
Right.
instincts on it.
Right.
So it's safety.
And then for all those out there, the target tape, usually you have a target tape put together by the scouts and regional scouts and all that, where you can kind of watch a quick highlight tape, right? But yeah, like you're saying, there'd only be like 2 or 3 plays in one game.
Right. I did all those target tapes when I was younger, but now these kids, they don't really. We have PFF now, so it's a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, they're easy. That's not fair. I had to do them too when I was younger.
Yeah.
Damn. Right.
Is your week 1 starting quarterback on the roster?
I don't know that yet, Mike. We're going to give Will every opportunity. I did
Why
both
does
come
Mike
out of
look so
Kentucky. So a lot of
serious?
physical.
Mike
That was a very direct question.
Every
Arms
year it's
crossed
kind
and
of been
everything.
different coaching staff in the process. So when I talked to Will and at my press conference, I said it too, and I've had.
All right. That's going to be GM speak. Of course, he's not going to say Will's not the quarterback or he is the quarterback.
Yeah. That was a question I don't think you were going to get an answer. I mean, he said he doesn't know yet.
Come on, Florio, you're
what
old.
else is he going to say?
What else do you think you're going to get out of that question?
Yeah.
I think there were some telling things. I think you kind of got a little bit more maybe out of the interview than you did Callahan.
Mhm.
But I mean, like I said, they're not going to give too much away right now.
Yeah, I like him, man. I like him. I was upset with Rand Carthon and stuff, how that went down, but I'm happy with this guy, man.
So we're going to pull up. We're going to react to the Rich Eisen.
Got a little bit of Richie Rich
We
Eisen.
love Rich Eisen in this show.
Love Rich Eisen as well. Respected Rich Eisen. I think he's one of the most fair journalists in sports out there today.
Seems like a good guy, too.
Keeps it real. Seems like a pretty good guy, man. He's pretty funny, too, man. He's made some cameos on some TV shows that were funny, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
That one?
He is, I guess it rhymes with Yahtzee. Because he's in the catbird seat. He has the new GM role in Tennessee, and he is the one who is fielding phone calls on the first overall selection in the draft. And you bet he is fielding phone calls, and he confirmed it today.
anytime you have number one pick, it's always going to be a topic of conversation. Yeah.
Has it gotten to a point where, a lot of other teams are getting very nosy, so to speak?
I would say we've had some phone calls. Yeah. I'll keep those phone calls to the vest, but we've had some phone calls. Yeah.
All right, confirming it. And also had no idea. Did you detect something listening to Mike there, Chris? Did you detect something? Born in Everett, Massachusetts. You didn't pick it up? How about you didn't pick up then? How about them apples inflection?
He had some Good Will Hunting vibes.
He had some. How about them apples? Getting phone calls in the first
Good movie.
overall pick. The question is,
should they move it?
What do they think of Will Levis? That's the end of the story. What the Tennessee Titans do with the first overall selection is a window into their evaluation of Will Levis. Period. End of story. And you could sit there and go, well, it's really an evaluation of Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. Okay, because Will Levis was not a first-round draft choice. This is now it's rubber meeting the road right now, pretty much on Will Levis, and you could start the clock again with another year of contractual control on a kid. And is that player not as good as Will Levis? Okay, we'll take Abdul Carter. Or we'll trade the draft choice and we'll figure out the quarterback another time. And they could do that in free agency. I cannot wait to see these puzzle pieces land. Because it is all about what's happening in 2 weeks. The NBA, we just had the governor of the Los Angeles Lakers leave us. The draft is before free agency in the NBA.
Yeah,
they draft before free agency. They draft first, and then they can fill in free agency. In the NFL, that is not the way it works, and we all know it. So, that you want a quarterback, you need to make the evaluation pretty darn fast, right now. That's you.
And I think that goes into what I've been saying and what we've been saying. You'll know more after free agency, depending on because they're going to bring in a free agent quarterback. There's going to be one brought in. Is it Sam Darnold or is it Andy Dalton? No.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton's a backup. Sam Darnold, which I don't want. I'm just trying to throw a piece out there. Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers here, it's a different story. That's the guys that's probably going to start next year.
Yeah.
But Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston, that's a guy who's there to mentor, kind of thing.
I'd definitely rather, obviously, and it does go into kind of what I felt like we were saying too, is like, you're going to kind of want to know your guy kind of early, like he said, or whatever, but as pertaining to what you said, I'd much prefer an Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston or, I think wouldn't even Joe Flacco, I think maybe even on the list, something like that.
Mariota, be a backup.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that Mariota coming back and playing, but I don't want to waste the money on Sam Darnold, man, because I don't think he's resurrecting his career in Nashville, man. I just don't, I don't want that mess, and I'm not into it. And I would just, no disrespect to him, I just don't want it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's see what else he has to say.
We need to make these decisions now. Because in 3 weeks, Sam Darnold's gone. In 3 weeks, Aaron Rodgers could be gone. In 3 weeks, Matthew Stafford can be up, and you can fall head over heels in love with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, who's it? Really? We're going to have Stafford? Well, that goes out the window. That is exactly what's happening, and it starts with the Tennessee Titans making this evaluation on Will Levis. Is Will Levis, in this second year of Brian Callahan's offense, better off for them long-term, a better long-term play than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? And if you think Will Levis is that better play, then the world is your oyster on anybody else. You can have Travis Hunter. You can have Abdul Carter. Or you can let somebody else fall in love with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders and move down and get more picks.
Just pause real quick.
But
we're pretty sure. I mean, wouldn't we say that we're pretty sure that they don't think Will Levis is the guy?
I'd say so.
Isn't it fair to say that he's probably shown enough that
I like Will. Well, like I said
I do
before,
too.
I don't think Callahan's betting his job with Will Levis.
Yeah, I
I think we'd
mean,
all agree Callahan's coaching for his job this year.
sure. Yeah, I
Do
would
you
agree with
think
that
he really
notion.
wants to go into the season
Mhm.
with Will? I think, and I think if you go and get one of these rookie quarterbacks, you might have a little more leeway. You know,
Mhm.
if you say you go win 5 games next year, like, I saw he won 2 more games and he did it with a rookie quarterback, and we're going in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, I just don't see Callahan betting his job on Will Levis.
Yeah, I agree.
That's really where it lands, and it's unfortunate because I do think some of these quarterbacks just need more time. But
Mhm.
the NFL is "What have you done for me lately?" league. So
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
we'll see.
Get some help. Although the previous general manager in Rand Carthon was making moves last year like they were just a couple players away. Like, let's get Calvin Ridley. Let's get L'Jarius Sneed. Let's go. And it didn't work out. Their first overall on the clock. Coach stayed, GM gone, new GM in. How about them apples?
He's
Making the
banking on that
decision
O
on
line and
Will
stuff he had
Levis
put
versus
together
these
and
two
stuff.
quarterbacks.
And
Those
just, it didn't
decisions
work
get
out in the
made
trenches on
now.
either side.
And then if you fall in love with Abdul Carter and you're like, I don't know if these quarterbacks are as good as Will Levis, doesn't matter. Hey, Sam Darnold, you want to come to Tennessee and be
Yeah.
in the Callahan, Zach Taylor, Sean McVay type system. And Sam Darnold might say yes to something like that. If you put enough cheddar on the table and now suddenly your options at the first overall selection are vast because you don't have to use.
Yeah, I'll pass on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not with that at all. Please don't give me Sam.
No, I agree. All right, and I guess we'll get into our final bite. We'll be coming back to you guys though. Actually, here, we'll try to do another episode and drop it here in the next couple of days. Look for it maybe for a couple of days after this one drops. We're gonna drop this. This should be Saturday when you're seeing this first.
Yeah, we'll drop one Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, we're gonna
Like a
watch the rest of the
post-combine
draft and
episode.
stuff. And we didn't touch on it. This is what I kind of wanted to touch on earlier. Is a few of the top guys not going to be working out? Just so everybody's clear, that's
Yeah,
maybe
it
not
seems like
aware.
that's become more normal.
Yeah, the two
That's my final
quarterback. I
bite.
mean,
So I'm gonna get into it on my final bite. My final bite is especially because it came out that Shador wasn't throwing, and then
yeah,
everybody went crazy.
Go crazy? Don't mind if I do.
He's scared, and then Travis isn't working out. Abdul Carter's not
Yeah.
working out. Mason Graham's not working out. Cam Ward,
Yeah,
none of
yeah.
them. So I think you should just realize that's the more normal. People want to go to their pro days and work out with their people. And it's just more chance to get injured. And
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think they go to the combine, talk to the teams, use that as like a, building a rapport with the teams. And the people that need to build their draft stock more are going to do more at the combine. The people that are already projected top 10 picks are going to not
Yeah.
do as much at combine as anymore.
It's just the evolution of the league, man.
Yeah.
Evolution of both leagues, really, man. Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, players are getting paid millions now
Mhm.
to stay at these schools and play for another year, and so they're taking care of themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're
going to
treating
put themselves
their
in the best possible situation to show their skills with their coaches and with their players they've been throwing to for 4 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That was my
They're-
final
they're-
bite.
yeah.
So you led me right into it. So what's
and
your
that's
final
kind of
bite?
part of mine. Really, is like my final bite would be like post combine. Just to kind of watch out for. And this is mainly for fans. The NFL brass and the GMs and coaches know what they're doing, but to not overhype anything, anything good or bad from any of the players. I think sometimes too much stock is put into the draft combine, and I think that's why a lot of these top players are doing what they're doing now. Something silly could, kind of drop them, because of a bad performance in a combine or something. Maybe that
Everybody
people
has a
weren't.
bad day.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's nothing wrong with having their pro days and doing it how they want to do it, man. You know, they're protecting their pockets and stuff, man. So, but yeah, that's my final bite, and I'm sticking to it.
There we go. On that note, like, subscribe, hit the little alert button so you know when we're doing something.
Tighten up that like button, baby.
Tighten it up. Yeah. Check out CPN and the rest of the podcast he's got going on too.
And look for us. We're going to try to come to you guys live or and do some other videos. We're going to try and go down to some practices this year and maybe talk to some of you fans. Maybe we'll see some of you guys down there. And we're going to do a lot of fun stuff this off season, man. So I'm excited. I'm excited for this off season and what's to come. Go live on draft day.
Absolutely.
So we'll be back to talk about more of the combine and stuff here in a couple days. So like you said, comment down below. Let us know how you feel. Like, subscribe. Shout out to CPN. We appreciate y'all. Go check all of them out. Check the AFC South show out. Check Sports Desk out and any other team you might be into and a fan of. They're working either on getting a podcast for or already have it. So go check that out.
And on that note, check please.
Check please.
This one's on Eddie.
This one's on Eddie.
He said, "Yep, I got you. So that's my boy. Tighten up.
Tighten up, baby."